And here we are with Book 11 of the Odyssey by Homer. How Odysseus visited the kingdom of the dead. Odysseus is still recounting his story to Alcinous at Alcinous's place. So Odysseus is all is. I feel completely unzipped at this point and just telling everyone about what a hard time he's had. So here we are. Odysseus continues telling his story about how he got there. Book 11. How Odysseus visited the kingdom of the dead. When we reached our ship lying on the beach, the first thing we did was to launch her into the sea. Then we set up mast and sail, and taking the ram and you, we embarked in no happy mind. The radiant goddess Circe sent a sail-filling wind behind us, a good companion for a voyage. We made all ship-shape aboard, and sat tight. Wind and helmsman kept her on her course. All day long we ran before the wind, with never a quiver on the sail. Then the sun set, and all the ways grew dark. We came at last to the deep stream of Oceanus, which is the world's boundary. There is the city of the Cimmerian people, wrapped in mist and cloud. Blazing Helios never looks down on them with his rays, not when he mounts into the starry sky, nor when he returns from sky to earth. But abominable night is forever spread over those unhappy mortals. There we beached our ship and put the animals ashore, and we walked along the shore until we came to the place where Circe had described. Paramedes and Eurylocos held fast the victims, while I drew my sword and dug the pit, a cubit's length along and across. I poured out the drink offering. For all souls, first with honey and milk, then with fine wine, and the third time with water, and I sprinkled white barley meal over it. Earnestly I prayed to the empty shells of the dead, and promised that when I came to Ithaca, I would sacrifice to them in my own house a pharaoh cow, the best I had, and heap fine things on the blazing pile. To Tiresias, alone in a different place, I would dedicate the best black ram among my flocks. When I had made prayer and supplication to the company of the dead, I cut the victims' throats over the pit, and the red blood poured out. Then the souls of the dead who had passed away came up in a crowd from Erebos, young men and brides, old men who had suffered much, and tender maidens to whom sorrow was a new thing. Others killed in battle, warriors clad in blood-stained armor. All this crowd gathered about the pit from every side, with a dreadful great noise which made me pale with fear. Then I told my men to take the victims which lay there slaughtered, to flay them and burn them, and to pray to mighty Hades and awful Persephonia. I myself, with drawn sword, sat still, and would not let the empty shells of the dead come near the blood, until I had asked my questions of Tiresias. First came the soul of my comrade Elpenor, for he had not yet been buried in the earth. We had left his body at Circe's house, unmourned and unburied, since other tasks were pressing. I was moved with pity for him, and my tears fell as I asked him simply, Elpenor, how came you to the gloomy west? You have beaten our ship with only your feet to walk on. He answered with a groan, I was done for by bad luck and a mort of a drink. I slept on Circe's roof and forgot to climb down by the long ladder. Fell head over heels off the roof, broke my neck, and my soul came down to Hades. Now I beseech you, by those who are not here, those you left behind you, by your wife and your father, who cared for you as a child, by Telemachus, your only son, whom you left at home, Remember me, my prince, when you reach Aia, for I know you will touch there on your way back from Hades. Do not leave me unmourned and unburied. Do not desert me, or I may draw God's vengeance upon you. Burn me with all my arms, and pile up a barrow on the shore of the great sea, that in days to come men may hear the story of an unhappy man. Do this for me, and plant my oar on the mound, the same oar which I used when I rode with my companions. I heard and answered, Be sure I will do this for you, my unhappy friend. As we exchanged these sad words, I stood on one side holding my drawn sword over the blood, and my friend's phantom on the other, telling his long story. Then came the soul of my dead mother, Anticlea, daughter of the brave Autolycos. She was alive when I left Ithaca on my voyage to sacred Ilion. My tears fell when I saw her, and I was moved with pity. But all the same, I would not let her come near the blood before I had asked my questions of Tiresias. Then came the soul of Theban Tiresias, holding a golden rod. He knew me, and said, What brings you here, unhappy man, away from the light of the sun, to visit the unpleasing place of the dead? Move back from the pit, hold off your sharp sword, that I may drink of the blood and tell you the truth. As he spoke, I stepped back from the pit, and pushed my sword into the scabbard. He drank the blood, and only then spoke as the prophet without reproach. He had his full powers before, but the draught of blood was a pleasure to him, as wine would be to a man, and he repays Odysseus by telling him, You seek to return home, mighty Odysseus, and home is sweet as honey. But God will make your voyage hard and dangerous, for I do not think the Earthshaker will fail to see you, and he is furious against you because you blinded his son. Nevertheless, you may all get safe home still, although not without suffering much, if you can control yourself and your companions when you have traversed the sea as far as the island of Thrinacia. There you will find the cattle and sheep of Helios, who sees all things and hears all things. If you sail on without hurting them, you may come safe to Ithaca, although not without suffering much. But if you do hurt them, then I foretell destruction for your ship and your crew. And if you can't escape it yourself, you will arrive late and miserable, all your companions lost in the ship of a stranger. You will find trouble in your house. Proud, blustering men who devour your substance and plague your wife to marry and offer their bridal gifts. But you shall exact retribution from these men. When you have killed them in your hall, whether by craft or open fight with the cold steel, you must take an oar with you, and journey until you find men who do not know the sea nor mix salt with their food. They have no crimson-cheeked ships, no handy oars, which are like so many wing feathers to a ship. I will give you an unmistakable token which you cannot miss. When a wayfarer shall meet you and tell you that is a winnowing shovel on your shoulder, fix the oar in the ground and make sacrifice to King Poseidon, a ram, a bull, and a boar pig. Thus he is to be reconciled with Poseidon, after he has proclaimed the god's majesty in a place which knew him not, and left the oar symbol. Then return home, and make solemn sacrifice to the immortal gods, who rule the broad heavens, every one in order. Death shall come to you from the sea. Death ever so peaceful shall take you off when comfortable old age shall be your only burden, and your people shall be happy round you. That which I tell you is true. I answered him, Ah, well, Tiresias, that is the thread which the gods have spun, and I have no say in the matter. But here is something I want to ask, if you will explain it to me. I see over there the soul of my dead mother. She remains in silence near the blood, and she would not look at the face of her own son or say a word to him. Tell me, Prince, how may she know me for what I am? He answered, I will give you an easy rule to remember. If you let any one of the dead come near the blood, he will tell you what is true. If you refuse, he will go away. When he had said this, the soul of Prince Tiresias returned into the house of Hades, having uttered his oracles. But I stayed where I was until my mother came near and drank the red blood. At once she knew me, and made her meaning clear with lamentable words. My love, how did you come down to the cloudy gloom? And you alive? It is hard for the living to see this place. There are great rivers between, and terrible streams. Oceanus, first of all, which no one can ever cross by walking, but only if he has a well-found ship. Are you on your way from Troy? Have you been wandering about with ship and crew all this time? Haven't you ever been back to Ithaca and seen your wife in your own house? I answered, Dear mother, necessity has brought me to the house of Hades, for I had to consult the soul of Tiresias the Theban. I have not been near Achaea, nor set foot in our country. I have been driven about incessantly in toil and trouble ever since I first sailed with King Agamemnon for Troy to see its fine horses and to fight with its people. But do tell me, really and truly, what was the cause of your death? How did you die? Was it a long disease? Or did Artemis Arcturus kill you with her gentle shafts? And tell me about my father and the son I left behind me. Do they still hold my honors and my possessions? Or have they passed to some other man, because people think I will never return? And tell me, of my own wedded wife, what she thinks and what she means to do. Does she remain with the boy and keep all safe? Or has she already married the best man who offered? My beloved mother answered at once. Aye, indeed, she does remain in your house. She has a patient heart, but her nights and days are consumed with tears and sorrow. Your honors and your possessions have not yet been taken away by any man, but Telemachus holds your Demesne, that's a first. Never seen that word. Your Demesne, and attends the public banquets as a ruling prince ought to do, for they all invite him. But your father stays there in the country. Stays there in the country, and never comes to town. His bedding is not glossy rugs and blankets on a bedstead, but in winter he sleeps among the hinds in the house, in the dust beside the fire, and wears poor clothes. When summer comes, and blooming autumn, he lies on the ground anywhere, about the slope of his vineyard, on a heap of fallen leaves. There he lies, sorrowing, and will not be comforted, longing for your return. Old age weighs heavy upon him. And this is how I sickened and died. The archeress did not shoot me in my own house, with those gentle shafts that never miss. It was no disease that made me pine away, but I missed you so much, and your clever wit, and your gay, merry ways, and life was sweet no longer. So I died. When I heard this, I longed to throw my arms round her neck. 3 times I tried to embrace the ghost. 3 times it slipped through my hands like a shadow or a dream. A sharp pang pierced my heart, and I cried out straight from my heart to hers, Mother dear, why don't you stay with me, when I have longed to embrace you? Let us relieve our hearts, and have a good cry in each other's arms. Are you only a phantom which awful Persephone has sent to make me more unhappy than ever? My dear mother answered, Alas, alas, my child, most luckless creature on the face of the earth. Persephone is not deceiving you. She is the daughter of Zeus. But this is only what happens to mortals when one of us dies. As soon as the spirit leaves the white bones, the sinews no longer hold flesh and bones together. The blazing fire consumes them all. But the soul flits away, fluttering like a dream. Make haste back to the light. But do not forget all this. Tell it to your wife and by. As we were talking together, a crowd of women came up, sent by awful Persephone, wives and daughters of great men. They gathered about the red blood, and I wondered how I should question them. This seemed to be the best plan. I drew my sword, and kept off the crowd of ghosts. And then I let them form in a long line and come up one by one. Each one declared her lineage. Then I questioned them all. Trio came first. Trio came first. That noble dame. She said she was daughter of Salmoneus, the wife of Cerinthius Aeolides. But she was in love with Epinius, the river god, most beautiful of all the rivers that flow on the earth, and she used to frequent the banks of this river. Poseidon Earthshaker took on him the shape of this river god, and lay with her at the mouth of the eddying stream. A dark purple wave made an arch over them like a mountain cave, to shelter the god and the mortal woman. He loosed her maiden girdle, and made her fall into a deep sleep. When their love was fulfilled, he took her by the hand and said, "A blessing on your love, my dearest. When the year has rolled round, you shall bring forth glorious children, for a god's embrace is not barren. Nurse the boys and rear them with loving care. And now, return to your home. Keep it to yourself and say nothing. But know that I am Poseidon Earthshaker." Then he dived into the billows of the deep. She conceived and brought forth Peleus and Neleus. Peleus and Neleus, who both became mighty servants of Zeus. Peleus dwelt in the broad spaces of Iolcus, rich in countless flocks of sheep. The other in sandy Pylos. She bore other sons as queen of King Cretheus, Aeson and Phares and Amithion, so famous with chariot and horse. Next to her I saw Antiope. Next to her I saw Antiope, the daughter of Asopus, who could boast that she had slept in the arms of Zeus, and she bore two boys, Amphion and Zethos. These two first founded the stronghold of Thebes with its 7 gates and fortified it, since without walls and towers they could not live in spacious Thebes, mighty though they were. After her I saw Alcmene, the wife of Amphitryon, who brought forth Heracles, the indomitable Lionheart, when she had lain in the arms of mighty Zeus, and the daughter of proud Creon, Megara, who became the wife of Amphitryon's son, the hero whom no labor could weary. Oh, these names. I saw the mother of Oedipus, fair Epiciste, who did a monstrous thing in the innocence of her heart, for she married her own son, and he had slain his own father first. But the gods kept it from people's knowledge for a time. So he continued to be king in his lovely Thebes, but full of misery himself, by the gods' cruel will. And she went down to the strong prison of Hades, the warder of the gates. Her grief was too great for her, and she hanged herself from a lofty roof beam. But she left him misery enough and to spare, which the avenging spirit of his mother brought to pass. And I saw beautiful Chloris, whom Neleus married for her beauty. Bringing magnificent gifts, she was the youngest daughter of Amphion Iacides, the powerful king of the Menenian Orchomenos. She thus became queen of Pylos, and bore him glorious sons, Nestor and Chromius, and lordly Periclymenos. Besides these, she was the mother of buxom Pero, the admiration of all beholders, wooed by every man within reach. But Neleus would give her to no man, unless he would carry off the cows of Iphicles from Phylace, a dangerous task. Iphicles was a mighty man. The cows were all guarded. Crumple-horned, broad-browed beauties. Crumple-horned, broad-browed beauties. A certain admirable seer promised to drive them off all by himself, but hard fate caught him fast. There were the savage herdsmen and prison walls. Days and months went by, the years rolled round again, and the seasons came back to their places, and then King Iphicles let him go after he had uttered his oracles. So the will of Zeus came to pass. I saw Leda also, the wife of Tyndareus, who brought him 2 stout-hearted sons, Castor the horsemaster, and Polydeuces, the great boxer. These 2 are both buried in Mother Earth, and both alive. Even deep in the earth they have a special privilege from Zeus, one day living and the next day dead, so they have the god's own privilege. Zeus granted them the privilege of living on alternate days, so one was always in Olympus and one in the grave. Oh. After her I saw Iphimedia, the wife of Aloeus, who could say she had lain with Poseidon. She bore him 2 sons, but they had only a short time to live. These were the famous Otos and Ephialtes, the biggest creatures the fruitful earth ever bred, and the most handsome next after famous Orion. At 9 years old, they were 9 cubits across the chest and 9 fathoms high. They threatened to set up a horrible civil war against the immortals in Olympus. Their plan was to pile Ossa upon Olympus, and Pelion with its forests upon Ossa, and so to climb into heaven. Indeed, they would have done it if they had lived to grow up. But they were killed by Apollo, the son of Zeus, and Leto, before the down began to grow under their temples and the hair upon their chins. I saw Phaedra and Procris and fair Ariadne, the daughter of grim-hearted Minos, whom Theseus carried off from Crete. He was taking her to Athenian soil, but he had no joy of her, for Artemis slew her first in the island of Dia because Dionysus told tales. Dionysus saw Theseus and Ariadne in his sacred cave and told the tale. Mera too I saw, and Clymene, and accursed Eriphyle, who accepted gold as the price of her own husband. I will not stay to name all I saw. Thank God. Wives of daughters of heroes, or night would end before I had done. It is time to sleep now. It is time to sleep now. Either here or on board the ship, and tomorrow, please God, you will arrange for my homeward voyage. When he had done, there was silence in the shadows of the hall, for they were all enchanted by the story. After a while, Arete began to speak. Wait. Is he just wrapping up his tale now in the hall of Alcinous there? Is that what's going on here? That might be happening right now. What do you think of him now, gentlemen? She said. Isn't he a fine figure of a man, and clever enough for anything? Now he is my guest. But you all have your share of the honor, so don't be in a hurry to let him go. And don't stint your gifts, which he needs so much. You have plenty of good things in store, thanks be to heaven. Echenius followed up and said, My friends, what our wise queen says is not far from the mark. Just what we might expect. You should do as she bids you. But here is Alcinous, and all that we say or do depends on him. Okay, so they did wrap up the story at Alcinous. Alcinous answered at once. Well, this shall certainly be done, if I am still alive and king over the seafaring Phaeacians. But let our guest make up his mind to stay at least over tomorrow. Guest make up his mind to stay at least over tomorrow. However anxious he may be to get home, and that will give me time to bring all our gifts together. To give him a safe journey is the concern of the whole nation, but mine most especially, since mine is the chief power in the land. Odysseus answered readily, Most illustrious prince, if you should bid me to stay here for a 12-month, while you are making full preparations for the voyage and heaping your bounty upon me, that is just what I should choose. The fuller my hands, the better welcome I should find when I come home. They would all think the more of me, and love me better when they saw me in Ithaca safe and sound. To this Alcinous replied, My dear Odysseus, to see you is quite enough to show that you are no cheat or impostor, like so many others. There is a rich crop of such men flourishing on the fat soil of this world, who dress up fabulous tales about what no eye could ever see. But there is the spirit of honest truth about your story, as well as the artist's finish, and you have told it like a poet who understands his craft. What a sad story of your own travels and the whole Argive nation. But now, be so kind as to tell us something more. Did you see any of your noble comrades who were at Ilion with you and there met their fate? There is any amount of this long night before us. It is not time for bed yet. Please go on with your tale of marvels. I could listen till daylight shall appear, if you would have the patience to finish your touching story under this roof. Odysseus was ready to play up to him, and answered, Most illustrious prince, there is a time for long stories, and there is a time for sleep. But if you wish to hear, I would not grudge you a story even more touching. The misfortunes of those who perished afterwards, when they had come safe out of the perils of the battlefield, and returned home only to fall by the treachery of a woman. Very well, then. As soon as dread Persephone had dispersed the ghosts of the women, the ghost of Agamemnon Atreides came near, full of sorrow. There was a crowd of others round him, those who died with him in the house of Aegisthus. The king knew me as soon as he had drunk the red blood. He cried aloud and wept, stretching out his hands towards me and trying to reach me. But there was no strength or power left in him such as there used to be in that body so full of life. I shed tears of pity myself when I saw him, and spoke plainly as I called him by name. My lord Atreides, Agamemnon, king of men, what fate of dolorous death brought you low? Did Poseidon raise a terrible tempest and drown you in the sea? Or did the hand of an enemy strike you down on dry land in some foray or cattle raid, or fighting for conquest and captives? He answered, Prince Laertiades. Prince Laertiades, Odysseus, ever ready. Poseidon did not drown me in the sea. No enemy struck me down on dry land. But Aegisthus plotted my death with my accursed wife, invited me to his house, set me down to a banquet, butchered me as if I were an ox at the manger. That was how I died, and a shameful death it was. My friends were falling all round me, like a lot of tusker pigs that a rich man slaughters for a wedding or a banquet or a buddy meal. You have seen men fall in battle often enough, killed man to man or in the thick of melee, but you never saw a sight so pitiable as that, as we lay about the wine bowl, and the tables were piled with meats, and the floor running with blood. Most frightful of all was the shriek of Cassandra, and she's a king's daughter. I heard it when the traitress Clytemnestra killed her over my body. I tried to lift my hands, but dropped them again on the ground. As I lay dying with a sword through my body, the bitch turned her back. She would not take the trouble to draw down my eyelids or to close my mouth in death. True it is, there is nothing so cruel. Nothing so cruel and as shameless as a woman. That woman proved it to be true when she plotted that shameful deed and murdered her lawful husband. Ah, me! I did think to find welcome with my children and household when I came back to my home, but she had set her mind upon outrageous wickedness. She had brought shame on herself and all women forever, even if one of them is honest. I cried out, Mercy upon us! Indeed, there is no doubt that Zeus all-seeing has been the deadly foe of the house of Atreus from the beginning, and he has always used the schemes of women. For Helen's sake, how many of us fell? And for you, Clytemnestra was laying her plot while you were far away. He answered, Then take warning now yourself, and never be too kind even to your wife. Never tell her all you have in your mind. You may tell something, but keep something to yourself. However, you will not be murdered by your wife, Odysseus. She is full of intelligence, and her heart is sound, your prudent and modest Penelope. Ah, she was a young bride when we left her and went to the war. There was a baby boy at her breast, and I suppose by this time he counts himself a man. Happy boy! His father will see him when he comes, sure enough, and he will give his father a kiss as a good boy should. But my wife would not even let me delight my eyes with the sight of my son. She killed the father first. But there is something I want very much to know. Have you heard anything about my son's being alive somewhere in Orchomenos, or in sandy Pylos, or perhaps in Menelaus in Sparta? My Orestes is certainly not dead yet. I said, Why do you ask me that, Atreides? I know nothing, whether he is alive or dead, and it is a bad thing to babble like the blowing wind. As we two stood talking together of our sorrows in this mournful way, other ghosts came up. Achilles and Patroclus and Antilochus, the man without stain and without reproach, and Aias, who was most handsome and noble of all next to the admirable Achilles. The ghost of Achilles knew me, and said in plain words, Here's Prince Odysseus, who never fails. Oh, you foolhardy man! Your ingenious brain will never do better than this. How did you dare to come down to Hades, where dwell the dead without sense or feeling, phantoms of mortals whose weary days are done. I answered him, My lord Achilles, Pylades, our chief and our champion before Troy. I came to ask Tiresias if he had any advice or help for me on my way to my rugged island home. For I have not yet set foot in my own country, since trouble has ever been my lot. But you, Achilles, are most blessed of all men who ever were or will be. When you lived, we honored you like the gods, and now you are a potentate in this world of the dead. That's one I feel like you should know. Potentate. You are a potentate in this world of the dead. Then do not deplore your death, Achilles. Come on, Achilles. Go easy on yourself. He answered at once, Don't bepraise death to me, Odysseus. I would rather be plowman to a yeoman farmer on a small holding than lord paramount in the kingdom of the dead. But do tell me something about that fine son of mine. Did he go to the war and take a leading place or not? And tell me of my noble old father. Have you heard anything of Peleus? Does he still hold his honorable place among the Myrmidons? Or have they lost respect for him throughout the land because his hands and feet are stiff with age? For I am no longer under the sun to help him. Strong as I once was on the battlefield of Troy, when I struck down the best of them and defended our people. Let me be for a short time in my father's house, strong as I once was, and I would make not a few fear my anger and in my invincible hands. They are keeping him by force from his honor due. I answered, I have nothing to tell you of your noble father, Peleus. But I can tell you about your beloved son, Neoptolemus. Your beloved son, Neoptolemus. And there is nothing to hide. In fact, I brought him in my own ship from Skyros, to join the Achaean army. When we held a council of war, he was always the first to speak, and always found the right thing to say. Only Nestor and I were superior. When we met our enemies in battle, he did not lag among the crowd or in the scrimmage, but showed himself well in front, the bravest of the brave. Many a man he killed in fair fight. I will not name all those he killed on the field, but what a man was brought low when he ran his sword through Eurypylos Telephides, that young hero, and many others of his people fell by his side, that a woman might enjoy her gewgaws. Gewgaws? His mother was bribed by Priam, who gave her a golden vine to let her son join the Trojans. Aeschylus died on page 50. Oh, shit. Okay. Might enjoy her gauze. Jaws. That was the handsomest man I ever saw, except Memnon the Magnificent. And when the best man of our army were about to enter the wooden horse which Epios made, and I was put in charge to open and close the door as I thought fit. The other captains were wiping tears from their eyes, and other captains and trembling in every limb. But I saw no pallor on his cheeks, and no tear in his eyes. Again and again he begged me to let him out, and handled his sword hilt and heavy spear, eager to have at his enemies. When at last we had sacked the city, he took his share of the spoil and a special prize, and embarked unwounded, with never a scratch from sword or spear, although there are plenty of those in war. You take your luck when war runs amuck. When I told him this, The ghost of clean-heeled Achilles marched away with long steps over the meadow of Asphodel, proud to hear how his son had made his mark. The other ghosts of the dead halted in turn, and each asked what was near to his heart. But alone of them all the soul of Aias Telamoniades kept apart, still resentful for my victory over him when there was a question about the arms of Achilles. The goddess, his mother, set them up as a prize for the best man. How I wish I had never won such a prize. What a life was lost for that. Aias first of all the Danaans, in noble looks and noble deeds, except Achilles, the incomparable, and so I addressed him in gentle words. Aias, great son of a great father, you were never to forget your anger against me for those accursed arms, not even in death? That prize was a disaster, seeing that we lost a tower of strength like you. Our whole nation mourns your loss continually, no less than we mourn Achilles Pleiades. Zeus alone is to blame, and no one else, because he hated the Danaan host so vehemently, and brought fate upon you. Nay, come this way, my lord, and listen to my pleading. Master your passion and your proud temper. He replied not a word, but moved away into Erebos after the other ghosts of the dead. Then, in spite of all, he should have spoken to me, or I to him, but I wished to see the souls of the others who were dead. There I saw Minos, the glorious son of Zeus, holding a golden rod and giving sentence upon the dead. He was seated, and the dead were around him in the house of Hades, with its wide portals, some seated and some standing, as each asked the judge for his decision. After him I noticed the huge figure of Orion driving the beasts in a mass over the meadow of Asphodel. In the game which he had killed himself when he was alive on the lonely hills, his hands held a cudgel of solid bronze, unbroken forever. And I saw Tityos, the son of Gaia, most majestic. Lying upon the ground, 9 roods he covered, and 2 vultures sat, one on each side, and tore his liver. Plunging under the skin, he could not defend himself with his hands. This was his punishment, because he had laid violent hands on Leto, the famous consort of Zeus, when she was passing through the beautiful grounds of Panopeus on her way to Pytho. Tantalos also I saw in his misery, standing in a lake up to his chin, always thirsty, but try as he would, not a drop could he lap up. For as often as the poor old man dipped his head to take a drink, the water was sucked back and disappeared, until the dark earth showed under his feet as fate dried it away. Tall trees in full leaf dangled their fruit over his head, pears and pomegranates and fine juicy apples, sweet figs and ripe olives. But as often as the poor old man reached out a hand to catch one, the wind tossed them all up to the clouds. Sisyphus I also saw, and his tedious task. As he held up a monstrous stone with both hands, scrambling with his feet and pushing with his hands, he heaved the stone up the hill. But just as he was about to topple it over the crest, the weight was too much for him, and turned it back. Down along to the ground rolled the stone, pitiless. Then he would push again, stretching and struggling, with sweat pouring off every limb, and the dust rising from his head. After him I saw mighty Heracles, his phantom that is, but Heracles himself is with the immortal gods, as happy as the day is long, with graceful youth for his bride. Around this phantom the ghosts were gibbering and twittering like a flock of birds, and scattering hither and thither. He stood holding his naked bow with arrow on string, looking as black as night, and casting dreadful glances round, forever as if just about to shoot. A terrible baldric was round about his chest, a golden strap covered with wonderful work, bears and wild boars and glaring lions, battles and conflicts and bloody death. May the artist never invent another work of art who made that terrible baldric by his genius. The hero knew me when he caught sight of me, and sped his words straight to the mark. Prince Laertiades, Odysseus never failing, I pity you, for you are dogged by an evil fate, as I was, under the light of the sun. My father was Zeus Cronion, yet I had infinite tribulation to endure, for I was bound to a contemptible fellow who set me dangerous labors. Once he sent me here for the dog, because he thought he could find no more dangerous labor than that. I brought him up. I got him from Hades, sure enough, under conduct from Hermias and Pallas Athena. With these words, he strode back into the house of Hades. But I remained where I was, in case any other of the heroes of past time should appear. And indeed, I should have seen others of those ancient men whom I wished especially to see, as Theseus and Perithous, those famous sons of gods. But before I could see them, the innumerable hosts of the dead gathered together with deafening cries, and I grew pale with fear that awful Persephone might send out of Hades upon me a gorgon head of some dreadful monster. Then I went back at once to the ship, and told my men to loose the hawser and get away. They were soon rowing steadily on their benches, and the current bore us steadily down the ocean stream, oars first, afterwards following a breeze. Holy moly. That was... There's just so many names. So many names I don't know how to pronounce. Feel free to drop, phonetic pronunciation guides in the chat to help me out, because holy moly. That was a chonker of a chapter. And next time we'll be looking at book 12 of the Odyssey by Homer. So we will see you next time.